Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world. It's Timmy, and it's a beautiful day in my neighborhood. Hopefully, it's a beautiful day in your neighborhood too. Um, we're gonna do the Proverbs. It's the 31st of July. Should be an interesting proverb, as they all are. Yesterday was pretty mind-blowing, I thought. Um, it was really cool. And yeah, I think Joss had mentioned in the comments I said Generation X, Y, and Z, but the millennials, I always forget that one. That actually embodies all the characteristics of the generation it was talking about yesterday, so that was a good catch there. I was at a loss for the word, but yeah, so I was on KJ's show last night. I mentioned it, and I didn't get to tell my story. I called to tell a specific story, and we kind of got off on some tangents, mostly my fault. Um, but I just kind of went with it, and it was a great time, like it always is. And everybody was cool in the chat as always. And well, not everybody. He gets a lot of trolls. I feel bad for him. I even got into the hangout again just to like make sure the trolls couldn't pop in and mute them and stuff like that. But good times, right? It always gets interesting when it's the scary story episodes with KJ, because he's got some good ones, and everybody else always has some good ones. I said that I would probably put it on the PC for today, and I'm going to save the story. If y'all want to hear it, check the next PC out. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting story. I've been saving it for a long time, and it's something that happened to me when I was a little kid. I told the hand story where the hand grabbed me. That was freaky. But I was a young man at that time. I mean, I would still consider it a kid, but I was in my later teens when that happened. So this story, though, was when I was in, like, I think the summer between 2nd and 3rd grade. And that's right around the age that, I mean, there's no biblical precedence for this, but I believe that's around the age of accountability, when you actually come into the original sin. That's just my personal opinion. I don't have a scripture to say, well, children, if they die, go to heaven. Very controversial. I know a lot of people say children, if they're born, they're in original sin, they die, they go to hell. They don't have salvation. But Jesus loved the children, but he loved sinners too. And I don't know, that's a controversial topic. I don't have any scriptures to back that up, but I believe that until you reach the age of accountability, where you actually have the mind that rationalizes and uses logic to justify sin, I think at that point of your material development is when you'll actually be held accountable. Until then, I don't know if you can be held accountable, because you're pretty ignorant, As a child, you learn. And so, before you learn, you believe. So, yeah, anyways, that's that. So it was a really good experience, but I'm going to share the story for the next prayer call, so I don't feel rushed. There's quite a bit of Proverbs to go through. There's a breeze, and I'm not complaining, but if it hits the audio on the microphone on here, I'm sorry, but I'm sure you guys can handle that. What else? Okay, so I've had some cool comments, and I've never had a chance to catch back up, and then as I'm on a video or around something and I see comments, I will comment. But that sets me back from backtracking and catching up, so I don't know. Maybe I will never catch up with the comments. I don't know. That's why some people think that, well, the YouTuber guy has a lot of subscriptions, so he feels he's too good to, respond back and blah blah blah. Maybe some of them are like that. I think so. I used to believe that too. Like, oh, I'm just a little channel. That guy's a big channel. He would never talk to me. He's too busy. Well, I know now, getting bigger as a channel, that you can get extremely busy. And prioritizing and then having a personal life on the side. I mean, I don't have much of a personal life, but I share most of my personal life with y'all. But it's overwhelming at times, and it's not bad. I'm not saying that to complain. I'm just saying it that I've only had a couple people that, maybe get hurt if I don't respond quick enough, or they get having feelings about it. Very approachable, very humble. So if you want to reach out, just bear with me and have patience with me, because it might take a while before I get back to you. And if I comment with something else between the time I get back to you, don't feel like I'm playing favorites or that I've ignored you. Oftentimes, I've heard KJ say it before, but I read the comments. I just don't always have time to respond back. And you know me, I'm long-winded, so I usually like to give a full response rather than just okay, an acronym for God bless you is GBY, and I didn't know that for the longest time, but I feel like it's almost, everybody teach their own. Do acronyms if you want. I personally feel like I can't say GBY, because then if they don't understand, I have to explain it. It gets complicated, but it also shorthands the sentiment. So, I mean, I'm a weird person, if y'all haven't figured that out yet. And so I have just weird little qualms like that, or weird little quirks. So, anyways, just bear with me. Most of y'all are really cool and patient, so I appreciate that more than anything, more than you know. And those who know me or have had correspondence with me know how it is, so I'm just very blessed to have you guys here with me, so quit talking about that. I've mentioned that a few times. Now, I have gone and refreshed or rehashed some of the prayer call videos, like I've gone back over it again a second time. You could be calling it recycling. Some might even refer to it as regurgitating the same information. But there's a lot more newer people here that are here now that aren't going to go back and see the old ones, and some of them are important. So, you know, if I repeat some things a few times, sorry. But if I feel led to repeat it, I will. So, and I'm not apologizing for me, because I'm going to do what I'm going to do, but I'm apologizing for you if you don't want to hear it another time. So, some people are only hearing it for the first time, and usually I won't say the same thing the same way multiple times if I'm going to go into a long explanation. But so that's that. Mentioning the comments, so why I brought it up was because we had a request. If you ever have any requests for topics for me to cover or discuss or address, please feel free to leave it in the comment section on the video, and I'll try to make a note, mental note, or actually write it down. And some of them I'll have to research and actually do some legwork. Like Amber wants me to do Ezekiel's wheels, and that one's very complicated. So I did a little picture 4 or 5 years ago, which ironically almost looks like a flat earth map, as before I was into flat earth at all. And I'm still on the fence about flat earth, but I lean towards I call it planar earth, because it's a plane of existence. And it's not flat. I live in a very hilly area. There's mountains, there's valleys. The earth is not flat, but the circle of the earth. That's why I say, boys and girls around the world. Okay, a circle still is round. It doesn't have to be a sphere or a globe. But yeah, so anyways, I'll discuss the Ezekiel's wheels some other time. I have to do some legwork and round scriptures up, and that'll be fun. But I've got a lot of other projects in the works, so bear with me, Miss Amba. And marriage and divorce was something that I think it's Joe last night on the chat, and he commented and asked my take on divorce, biblically speaking. And I have some stuff on that, but I'll have to get the ducks in the row before I can address it directly. And that's an important topic. I know a lot of people going through divorces right now, or that have been divorced or remarried and going through another divorce, or are looking to get married, or you know, living with a partner, but it's not moving to the next level, but if they don't want to go away and find blah blah blah. So that's an important topic to cover, because a lot of people, you know, that's a life experience of getting married. And often, I mean, here I can't remember what the divorce rate is in America, but it's more than 50%, more than half of the marriages that are, you know, sanctioned, more than half of them fail, I think. So we'll cover that in its own video. And but if you have any other comments or questions, you know, I've got my email. It's Timmy20, like the letter O, not the number, like H2O, but Timmy20@yahoo.com. Pretty simple. If you want to shoot me an email, it might take me forever to get back to you, because I have a lot of emails that come that are like spam, and I've got a couple like I don't know, e-blasts that come. So I check my email about once a day, but I don't actually open the mail once a day. So it might take me a while to get back to you from email. If you send me a message on YouTube, like a private message on YouTube, I very rarely check those. So it might be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I check that. And if I'm busy, it might take a while before I get back to you on it. So bear with me on that. So yeah, you guys are real patient. I'm just telling you means. If you want to contact me, you can. Facebook, it's Timothy Castleberry in Flower Mound, Texas. I actually have a button, a hot button on it's like a link button on the home page. I don't know if it works I don't know how the mobile devices and pads work, but I've got a hot button for my Facebook Timmy O channel page or whatever. I don't hardly do anything on there, but it's a way if you want to send a private message there. I get notifications better on Facebook than I do on anything else. Google Plus, there's like a million notifications on there. It's hard to keep up with stuff, and a lot of it's not even related to me or my videos or comments. So yeah, reach out if you want to, and if you need help like with your videos, if you want to set up a channel, I'll have a conversation with you, tell you about that. If I feel comfortable, we could do a hangout, or I could give you my phone number, we could talk for a little bit. But my time's very limited, so I'm whatever, blah blah blah. This isn't the Timmy show, okay? So I just want y'all to know, like, you have a friend in me, and if y'all are here, then I consider you family, pretty much, especially if you're participating with me. So I like communication. That's the basis of all relationships. I wish I could communicate and correspond more. So yeah, that's that. And so yeah, I'll get to the marriage and the Ezekiel's wheels, or marriage and divorce and Ezekiel's wheels. And I feel like there's one other topic, but we're gonna talk about familiar spirits soon. Not maybe tonight, I don't know, we'll see. But so that's that. That's everything. I can't think of anything else that I really want to talk about. I could talk about a million things, but let's go ahead and jump into Proverbs, I suppose. I feel like I never got to my point, but that happens frequently. Okay, so Words of King Lemuel. That's the subtitle of Proverbs 31, but then it says, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. So here, yesterday was prophecy, today's prophecy as well. I always like prophecy. It's my favorite. So, oh Father, bless our time with you. Give us knowledge and wisdom and understanding. Amen. Verse 2 says, what my son, and this is the mom giving it to the king, right? What my son, and what the son of my womb, and what the son of my vows. What? Okay, the queen of the mother is significant. The entire chapter is emphasizing the role of wise women. We'll see. There are lots of wise women. Alright, so she's telling him now in verse 3, give not your strength unto women, nor the ways to that which destroys kings. I think of King Solomon right off the top. He knew God. It wasn't like a matter of faith, like he knew God. He was the son of the man who was after God's own heart. He was the wisest man that's ever been besides Jesus, and he had so many women it wasn't even funny. Concubines and you name it, wives. He was a man very given over to the desires of his flesh. And at the end of his life, he said all is vanity anyways. If it doesn't bring you, basically what I got out of it in Ecclesiastes when he says that, vanity and vanity of vanities, all is vanity. If it doesn't bring you closer to God, then it's not good. And you're talking about a guy who was very close to God, that got so far away that he started to erect groves. Last night they mentioned groves. You know, there's a Bohemian grove, and there's another grove KJ mentioned, I don't remember the name, but it's a female variety. And then there's a place in Africa, I think, and I know there's some also in Central and South America. But a grove is, I mean, see these trees? This is a grove. I mean, it's just woods. But when you plant a grove, that's a little different. That's unintentional, on purpose, not just a natural thing. Ashtaroth or Ashtaroth or Ishtar, I mean, that's similar deity, depending on what region they come from, hailing that as their matriarchal goddess or whatever. He was making these places of worship in God's holy land. I mean, a guy who knew God was having his wives to be appeased, so, and serving other gods in the process, or at least submitting to the will of those women and their gods. That's a way to put it. Very disturbing, really, when you read about that. And he had chicks from all over, so the chicks that came from here would bring their gods, and the ones that came from there would bring their gods, and then he was like, he should have been like, okay, well, if you're gonna get with me, I can't get with your friends, you know? And their friends were idols and false gods, so he was just like, I'm okay, you're okay, let's, you know, we can do this. And he gave himself over. So give not your strength unto women. Okay, the strength of Solomon was God and the godly wisdom he had, but the ways of giving his strength to the women, that destroyed the king, and it destroyed his legitimacy, it destroyed his the respect that he got, not from outsiders, but from the insiders that could see and know. And I think he reconciled quite a bit at the end of his life, but, you know, Proverbs is probably his contribution back to saying, hey, man, I screwed up. Or, who knows, I mean, maybe I'm just conjecturing ad nauseum. Okay, so verse 4 says, it is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for princes strong drink. Okay, so a king has to be of sound mind and clarity if he's going to be casting judgment from up on high, and it's going to be holy judgment, and making decisions for a whole kingdom. I mean, the responsibility isn't just for the kingdom at the top, not for the elites at the top, and it's not just for the priests underneath, and it's not just for the family society. I mean, the society was set up with families and properties and extended families and etc. So you have your higher, more well-to-do families within each given tribe and such, and I mean, there's a pecking order to the way things are organized, and here it's, a king is in charge of all of that, and that's a great responsibility. So, you know, it's not for kings to drink wine. A little wine goes a long way, and a little wine turns into a lot of wine. So, nor for princes strong drink. So you think wine can be strong, but generally it's not as strong as strong drink. I mean, they're about the same, to be honest, but it's, I don't know, princes to drink stronger than the wine. So I would think the prince has less responsibility than the king, so the king can drink a little wine or a lot of wine, but the strong drink, the princes could just be getting wasted because they don't have responsibility. And verse 5 says, lest or otherwise they drink and forget the law. I wish I would have read that verse and not explained so much. And pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. Okay, the afflicted people are the ones that come with the matter to the king. So verse 5 just backs everything up I just said, so sorry. Verse 6 says, give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Okay, so a little wine can make the heart merry. If you're having a hard day, you know, maybe a glass or two of wine isn't going to kill you. Just don't drive after you have the glass or two of wine. Strong drink you give to someone who's about to die, okay? I always think of in the movies when you got the guy, I think Braveheart, right? The old man's got the arrow in his self, and maybe I think he gets his arm cut off at one point or something. I can't remember, to be honest, but they're going to have to do some procedure on him. It's not like they have any anesthesia. And they're like, they're going to pour some wine on it because it's alcohol, and alcohol kills the germs and stuff. And it always burns really bad, too. And so, like, the old man, it's the Amishes, like, speaking of Joss and Chrissy, were talking about Amish, I think. Or Hamish, however you want to pronounce it. But the big red-headed dude that was Braveheart's best friend, his old dad was a bad mamma jamma. Reminded me a lot of my dad, actually. Anyways, he is like about to get the procedure done, and he like reaches over when they're about to get the strong drink, right? And he's like grabs and he's like, give me that, and he's like takes some chugs off of it. And I was just thinking, it numbs the pain a little bit, but you don't want to numb the pain with alcohol. Firsthand telling you that. Um, so verse 7 says, let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Open your mouth for the dumb, in the cause of all such are appointed to destruction. Okay, so I'm assuming that verse 6 and 7 go together. Give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, and wine unto those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Okay, so if your heart is heavy, have a little wine, and then you will forget your poverty, or whatever it is you're lacking, right? That's making you heavy-hearted. But the misery, I think, is when you're about to die. The one that's about to perish, I think the misery is relative to that. So, but verse 8 is totally separated, I think. Open your mouth for the dumb, and dumb, says here representative of the poor and needy, but dumb doesn't mean stupid. I don't think it could. And you have some people who are a little slow up here, or they might be special needs and not functioning on the same level as most people. Doesn't mean they're dumb, but that was a word that was kind of like a catch-all word for different plights, right? I always think of autistic people. I've met and known a lot of them. Really good friends with a few right now. And some of those guys, if you were to judge on the outward appearance and not have much interaction with these people, you would say, oh man, that person's dumb. They don't even know this, or they don't even know how to do that, or they don't act right, or they're not normal, right? But then if you actually get to know some of these people that are autistic, they're some of the most kind and loving people that have hearts of gold and very childlike, even as they get very old. And man, it's amazing that, okay, I've got Emily Piwu, I've mentioned to y'all before. You can tell her one time a birthday, one time, and she will remember it for the rest of her life. I could ask her when my dad's anniversary was, or is, and my mom and dad's anniversary, she could tell me. I could ask her when somebody who I've only mentioned to her one time when their birthday is, and she would tell me. 5 years later. I mean, it's nuts. It's like Rain Man. It's really cool. She'll even send me a text message and be like, hey, today is Mr. Castleberry's half birthday. She even breaks it down into halves. Like, that's nuts. She sends me a text, hey Tim, it's your half birthday today. Happy half birthday. It's really cool. So dumb is not, it's a relative term, and it's not always relevant to the application. So what it's saying in verse 8 is, open your mouth for the dumb, in the cause of all such are, or such as are appointed to destruction. So you can see, in this instance, I would say most of the time you see people that are going down to destruction, and may, for whatever reason, like, you have to be a defender for those who can't defend themselves. And dumb would be applicable to a modality, not so much the aptitude of the mind. Okay, so verse 9 says, open your mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and needy. Okay, so you have the people who are in need of help, and then you have the people who are poor and needy. Between all three of those, you pretty much have a great spectrum covered, and this is who the king is supposed to be righteously defending and protecting and having in his heart and mind. Because if they can't speak for themselves, then he needs to be the one that can speak up. Excuse me. Okay, so the virtuous woman now is where it moves into that. I don't usually like using the subtitles. Verse 10 says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Now this is, you hear the, I don't know if y'all are aware, but you'll always hear, find a Proverbs 31 woman or girl. Well, we're about to find out if, Joe, what a perfect timing. You're talking about wanting to find a marriage or get married or engaged or divorce or all those things. If you're married and you're already in there, these are the qualities you're going to want to be trying to nurture, or to reinforce, or to build up, or plant the seeds thereof, if you can, from an outside perspective. Help with these qualities. If you find these qualities in a woman and you're a man, she's a keeper. And if you're a woman and you lack these qualities, these are things that you might want to set your bar up and try to achieve these as goals. This is God's model of a godly woman and somebody who's a good mate. So the question mark's rhetorical. Who can find a virtuous woman? I don't know. They're far and few between these days. Her price is far above rubies. It's one of the most precious stones. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her. Trust is a major issue these days in relationships. So that he shall have no need of spoil. Okay, is he going to spoil things by making accusations or being paranoid? I've done that before, so yeah. Trust issues. Verse 12 says, she will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Okay, so we all make mistakes, but she's not going to do you wrong. And if she does wrong, it was an accident, or, you know, we can fix that. We can work on it. We can work through it. You know, we can get past it. But she's going to do good all the days of her life. And we all fall short, but she's not going to do evil. And that's very specific. Verse 13 says, she seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. Okay, wool and flax is two things you would use. We've got some weavers. We've got some weavers in here. And they could probably explain it better than I could, but back in the day, wool and flax were two resources that you would use to make clothes and other items. And so she works willingly with her hands. She doesn't say, oh, hey, you know, your garment's all jacked up and I'll make that next week. She's like going and getting the wool and then getting the flax and starting to put it all together, and she's doing it willingly because she wants to, not because of necessity, right? So that's cool. Proactive, that's what I would say. And you got to think resourceful, to go out and get the resources and then be proactive and productive with it. She is like a merchant's ships. She brings her food from afar. Merchant ships was how they acquired goods that you couldn't get in your area. Think about living as desert dwellers in an arid climate in a community of like Israel. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you cannot get there. It's not native to that place. You always find them getting wood from outside, the cedars of Lebanon, and stone. I mean, you name it. All the items, that, not all, but most of the items they got that were good, they got off of merchant ships that came from afar, or traveled through land on caravans. But so she brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night, so while it's still dark, she's up before the sun, and gives meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. So she takes care of her family, and she takes care of her servants, if she has any. These days and ages, we would say it takes care of our animals, who are like kids, and then takes care of the kids, and then takes care of the husband. So she's up before the sun even comes up, and back then you have to think it used to take a long time to make a meal. So she considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands she plants a vineyard. Okay, so women didn't buy land at those times. Men did. And women didn't buy it. Men did. So I think widows was an exception, partially legalistically to that rule of thumb, but it's a man's world. But it wouldn't be nothing without a girl. So to say this is to say that she is going out of her way to peek it out, right? She considers the field, so she has to look at it, give it the prospect. I mean, think about the housing market where you go buy a house. You don't just like go to the house and be like, oh yeah, that's a good price, it looks good, sold. You know, like you go in, you look around, you inspect it, you check this and that out. Back then, a land was even more important. That's your family and your livelihood, is your property. So does it have an opportunity to have a well? Does it have water? Does it have good soil? Does it have pests? There's a million things, but to consider a field and buy it means that she's going above and beyond the call of duty, right? And then with the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. Okay, a vineyard is a whole, great. I mean, it's not always grapes, but oftentimes it would be grapes. But it's more than a garden. I'll just put it that way. So it's with the fruit of her hands, or with her own labor. Um, Talk about an independent woman, right? This is what the feminazis is what I always think, but feminism, or women's rights, and that movement that's been kind of hijacked and manipulated and used. This is what they wish they could be. This is what they wish they embodied, was these qualities. I'm all about empowering women, but not overpowering women, or empowering them to a point to where they get pride and exalted above their proper position. So, but this is an independent woman. This is somebody who she's a keeper, as I say. She considers the field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand she plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good. Self-esteem. Her candle goes not out by night. So she's up in the morning early to bed, early to rise. So she's not going to bed early. And a mom's work's never done, you know. A woman's work is never done. Neither is a man's, but women do different kind of work. Try and be a stay-at-home dad and see how long that lasts. That's a difficult task. She lays her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. Okay, I don't know what a distaff is, but the spindle is kind of like the loom. It would be similar to like a modern day sewing machine. That's if I'm not mistaken. So she stretches out her hand to the poor. So she's thoughtful of others. Yes, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. Okay, so the king is being told what kind of woman to look for your queen. Remember Lemuel? This is a book of prophecy. Who can find a virtuous woman? We talked about virtue a few days ago. And so here, these are embodiments of those virtues of godliness and goodness. And so he was told, you know, you're the defender of the poor and the needy. Well, here's a woman that puts her hand out to the poor. Remember yesterday I said, yeah, it's you got homeless people, and everyone's talking about, oh, I'm so caring about the homeless and the unfortunate and the poor and the needy, but then what are they doing? Well, I've got an extra $5 here, so go get yourself something to eat, you know? Okay, well, did that $5 really help out a whole lot? I mean, yeah, maybe it got them something to eat, maybe it got them a crack rock, maybe it got them a couple 40s of beer. I mean, I don't know. What they do with the money's on them. It's the giving with charity and love. It's the thought that counts, right? But what are they actually doing? Are they going to feeding the poor? Are they going to go help them get back on their feet? I mean, at what point are you obligated? And we live such busy lives, it's hard. I'm not trying to condemn anybody, but I'm just saying, this is a woman that's not just talking about it or putting memes on Facebook about it, or, you know, have political views in reference to it. She's getting it done. She stretches her hand out to the poor. She reaches forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. Okay, scarlet was a hard color to come by back then. Red and the dye, I mean, even today, double garments is what it says, clothed with scarlet, of high quality, probably made of wool. Well, we already talked about wool, so yeah. She's not afraid of the snow for her household. For me, I think of the preparation of it that it takes for winter, to winterize things. Well, she's got that taken care of. The household are clothed with scarlet. Okay, so wool is heavy and it keeps you warm. I mean, warmer than usual. And scarlet is a color of high value. So is purple. Purple and red were probably the two, and maybe blue, or probably the hardest colors to make. Okay, verse 22 says, she makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Just talked about purple, okay? And silk is really hard to come by back then. Now they have little worms that can grow the silk, or China's always been famous for silk. But silk is one of the most delicate fabrics there is too. I mean, y'all know what silk is. But her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. when he sits among the elders of the land. She's not just a trophy wife, but everybody wants, or everybody knows the husband because of the trophy that she is, right? He's a winner, and he's known at the gates because her reputation precedes her, and it makes him have a better reputation to have a wife of that standard of quality, right? Virtuous woman. This woman has a lot of virtues that many men would envy. So, in the gates, we've talked about that's a gathering place. Everybody, one way in, one way out. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Yeah, so if he's known in the gates, that was kind of like, okay, you always hear about the water, talk around the water cooler at work, you know, or the coffee, or the break room, or whatever. That's where, hey, what's the word on the street? Okay, the city gates is where you would get the word on the street. So when it says her husband is known in the gates, he's, you know, it is known. He sits among the elders of the land. Okay, the elders are the wise guys. Like, I mean, not wise guys like, hey, wise guy. They have wisdom. The elders have been there, done that, seen it, and slow motion for them. You know what I mean? So I think of the like old guys that are in the park playing checkers or chess. Like, that's what I always picture when I think about that. So just picture those dudes, or at the barber shop, you know, where they're all just sitting around talking, but they're not getting haircuts. That's kind of a similar deal, right? So when the younger man goes in and sits down, maybe while he's getting his haircut, or while he wants to play a game of chess with one of the older fellas, that's where maybe they're like, you know, hey, your wife is something special. You're a blessed man. Blah blah blah. He is known. Okay, so verse 24. She makes fine linen and sells it, and delivers girdles unto the merchant. Okay, so she makes fine linen. Linen is a process of that fabric making, and then she sells it. So they don't need all of the excess. I mean, she's like very proactively helping out. I mean, she sounds like an entrepreneur to me, but still takes care of her domestic business as well. So they're one and the same, really. Delivers girdles unto the merchant. Okay, the merchant is the distributor, so it'd be easier to make it, produce it, sell it, give it to the distributor, let the merchant merchandise it and sell it abroad, right? She's like the merchant ships, right? She gets her food from afar. Verse 25 says, strength and honor are her clothing. Okay, now we're going all metaphorical, right? And she shall rejoice in time to come. She might not be rejoicing while she's doing all that busy work, but in time to come, she'll be happy for it. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Wow, this is a book of prophecy, right? She opens her mouth with wisdom. Okay, so you want a woman that when she speaks, it's wise words, wisdom. And in her tongue is the law of kindness. Or in her tongue, the law of kindness. The law of kindness given to her children and friends. She is a wise and loving counselor. See chapter 1 verse 8 and chapter 6 verse 20. Not going to go there, but that's interesting. Strength and honor of clothing. And Timothy chapter 2 verses 9 through 10, the opposite is to be clothed with shame and dishonor, compared to strength and honor. She shall rejoice in time to come. She is free of anxiety and worry concerning the future. So, if she's busy with her hands now, and she's getting the work done now, like I just said, she's probably not rejoicing during the busy work, but she doesn't have time to worry about, like as it said in the commentary, about anxiety and all those things. Verse 27 says, she looks well to the ways of her household. She doesn't neglect her domestic duties, like I just mentioned. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also calls her blessed, and he praises her. Okay, husbands, if you're not praising your wives, and if you're not blessing your wives, or your fiancés or girlfriends, it's probably not going to end out too well. Or it's going to get complacent, or it's going to backslide in your connection and your communication. So, but the woman also has to embody the qualities that deserve to be blessed of the husband and children, and of the praises that are due, right? Give credit where credit is due, but don't give false credit when it's not due, and then don't not give credit when there's more than enough opportunity and reason. That's one of the main reasons why marriages fail right there, is because people get into comfort zones and the communication dwindles and the connectivity dwindles and the flame of passions go out. It's sad but true. So verse 29, many daughters have done virtuously, but you excellest them all. So many daughters are good daughters, many women are good women, but this woman of virtue exceeds and excels far above them all. So a Proverbs 31 woman is one that exalts herself by action and quality, and she sets herself apart as being special because of, maybe they're all special, right? But she's one that, I'm not just special, I'm more special, right? But it's based on her actions and her words lining up, and the qualities that we've just gone over that embody. So verse 30 and 31 says, favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. So like I just said, don't give them credit when it's not due. That's favor that is deceitful. And beauty is vain. Don't just put them on the pedestal because they're hot. That happens a lot for guys and girls. Oh, they're so good looking, blah blah blah. Okay, when you find out they're the most shallow people you know, you're going to be very upset or disappointed when you, oh, they're so beautiful a person, they're so hot, why, how could they have turned out to be, garbage? Well, it depends on what's on the inside. Beauty fades away, right? But a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Favor is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Who I just said. Okay, maybe I should read more before I comment. The fruits of her own labor. Oh, hello, Leaf. The fruits of her own labor. All this works that she's done, don't just. I see this with women a lot. They get taken advantage. Nice guys finish last. It happens to guys too, but women with kind hearts get taken advantage of, and men that are scoundrels will use them up. They'll take all the goodness that they have, and when that woman gives away her heart and all the goodness that she has to offer, and a man takes and takes and takes, and then has a manipulative cycle of, rather it be verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, it gets to a point to where it's just really sad to see people with good hearts taken advantage of. And if a woman's working hard to do something, or to lift you up, or to support you, and the same goes for men too, but this is more applicable to women directly. If you have a woman who's doing good things, if she's doing them to get something in return, that's not good. That's manipulation, and that's leverage usually. So what I'm saying is that a woman who gives out of the kindness of her heart and works hard to make everybody happy, or specifically goes out of her way to make you happy, don't just take that and not give her any of the fruits of her own labor. I've seen guys who have sugar mamas, right, where they have a relationship and there's a bond and a connection, and maybe they love each other, they're in love, but I've seen guys who would rather just take their woman's money and not make any or do any of their own work. And you got the woman working and working and working, and he's busy buying video games or playing this or doing that. And at the end of the day, the woman's doing all the work, and what is she getting for it? A man that's in a comfort zone, that's not giving her the attention she deserves or the credit that's due to her. That's just one example that's applicable, and you could slice this up in different varieties and look at different extremes in the spectrum of how these truths or experiences in reality could be applied to your situation or somebody you know. But favor is deceitful and beauty is vain. How many people are more worried about what they look like with beauty and vanity than they're worried about what is actually being done or what they're doing? I I didn't wash my face before I came out here and started sweating again. I didn't fix my hair. I didn't comb my beard. Hell, I don't even think I brushed my teeth yet, to be honest. I probably got coffee teeth, And if this was as strong as I'd like it, I'd probably be having black teeth by now. No peanut butter today, guys. Just saying. So, yeah. We waste a lot of time on vanity, and favor is deceitful, unless it's from God. But the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom, and it's a respect for God, and it's following the law, and blah blah blah. And when I say blah blah blah, I don't mean it disrespectful to God's truth or His word. It's just a way of speeding myself along. But give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Letting her own work, actions speak louder than words. We already covered all that earlier. So and she'll be praised in the gates. Well, she's so awesome that her husband's getting known in the gates by the elders and everybody else. But let her have also her due in public with those people in the gates or abroad. So let's see, we're doing 46 minutes, not too shabby. Okay, so July 31st. John chapter 17 verse 23 says, I in them. If such be the union which subsists between our souls. If such be the union which subsists between our souls and the person of our Lord, how deep and broad is the channel of our communion. This is no narrow pipe through which a thread like stream may wind its way. Wow, thread, like. Just going back to that, the weaver and weaving and flax and wool and spindle. It's interesting choice of words here for Mr. Spurgeon. If such be the union which subsists between our souls and the person of our Lord, how deep and broad is the channel of our communion. Okay, so this is almost like a third step. We talked about a man and a woman. We aren't going to talk about divorce or marriage today. Yet it seems to kind of be a theme, right? Now, God comes first, and then your husband and wife, and then the kids, or family, extended families. And the union between a man and a woman is my first thought, but when a man and a woman unites, they become, in a vow, one voice to God. So, if such be the union which subsists between our souls and the person of our Lord, how deep and broad is the channel of our communion with the Lord. Now, this isn't referring to marriage or couples, but I'm just thinking about all that we just read and seeing how this overlaps. So, the channel of our communion with God is no narrow pipe through which a thread-like stream may wind its way. It's a channel of amazing depth and breadth, along whose glorious length a ponderous volume of living water may roll its floods. Behold, he has set before us an open door, and let us not be slow to enter. This city of communion has many pearly gates. Every several gate is one of pearl, and each gate is thrown open to the uttermost, that we may enter, assured of welcome. If there were but one small loophole through which to talk with Jesus, it would be a high privilege to thrust a word of fellowship through the narrow door. How much we are blessed in having so large an entrance. Had the Lord Jesus been far away from us, with many a stormy sea between, we should have longed to send a messenger to him to carry him our loves, and bring us tidings from his Father's house. I love those guys. He has built his house next door to ours. Oh wait, I'm sorry. A messenger, okay, I'm going to start over with this passage, because this is I love Mr. Spurgeon's words, but he strings together some really long, like, statements. I'm not complaining because it's like the pot and the kettle. I string together a lot of long sentences, but it's not like a long run-on sentence. I don't know if his qualifies a run-on, but his truth runs on and on and on sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so had the Lord Jesus been far away from us with many a stormy sea between, we should have longed to send a messenger to him, to carry him our loves, and bring us tidings from his Father's house. But see his kindness, he has built his house next door to ours. No, more, he takes lodging with us, and tabernacles in poor humble hearts, that so he may have perpetual intercourse with us. Okay, intercourse isn't always sex, but interesting word choice. Oh, how foolish must we be if we do not live in habitual communion with him. When the road is long and dangerous and difficult, we need not wonder that friends seldom meet each other, but when they live together, shall Jonathan forget his David? They were like best friends. Jonathan was the son of the king, um, and actually was loyal to David over the king because the king got corrupted. But when they live together, will they forget each other? A wife may, when her husband is upon a journey, abide many days without holding converse with him, conversation, correspondence, whatever. But she could never endure to be separated from him if she knew him to be in one of the chambers of her own house. Oh, wow, man, I can't believe this keeps coming back up. I know a lot of married couples right now that don't sleep in the same bedroom, that have their own separate rooms in their own house. Now they interact a lot, but sometimes that's better for the couples, and I'm not derogatorily speaking towards that arrangement, but sometimes it's because they're strangers in their own house, and that's not good. So a wife may, when her husband is upon a journey, abide many days without holding converse with him, but she could never endure to be separated from him if she knew him to be in one of the chambers of her own house. Why, believer, do you not sit at his banquet of wine? Seek the Lord, or seek your Lord, for he is near. Embrace him, for he is your brother. Jesus is all of our brothers, and he's the husband as well, the bridegroom, and we're the bride of Christ. Hold him fast, or solidly, surely, not quickly, but he is your husband. And press him to your heart, for he is of your own flesh. The Word was made flesh. We've all had a pair of skins. A pair of skins. It's funny. Wow, I'm just amazed, really. Old Timmy wasn't going to talk about marriage and divorce today, but God was. I'm still going to cover it directly, but I love it when God does his thing. Alright, so, Heavenly Father, we just come before you thankful, and we appreciate this time we've gotten to spend with you, in the Word, in your wisdom, humbled every day by your knowledge and your revelation. So thank you for revealing to us the ways of wisdom. Thank you for giving us prophecies so that we may know. Wow. God, I just want to lift up anybody who's lonely right now, who's looking for a mate. Anybody who's having problems socializing, or having problems actually connecting when socializing. Just want to pray for everybody who's lost a loved one. There's many widows and widowers out there. My heart goes out to them, because when you have a love and you lose it like that, that's a difficult thing. But we need to focus on Christ and our Father in heaven, and know that the love comes from there first, and the experiences that we have, God, we just want to be appreciative that we ever got to experience those experiences. And it's not about what we lost, but what they gained. So thank you for gaining members into heaven. Rather, they have to leave the body and we're left behind to catch up to death later. But as long as there's work to be done, God, we're happy to be here. And in the times when we're not happy, let us look to you. And for those that have never experienced the loss of loved ones, prepare them for the time in which they will lose, but also prepare them for the time at which they will gain. A lot of people are meant to be alone their lives, and only you know, God. So make it clear to them who are seeking. Let them seek you first. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all the things that they're looking for will be added to them if it's your will to do so. So lift up the spirits of those that are lonely, and give them companionship and company, and intercourse with them, God. Have communion with them. But let us remember that you're a loving God that wants to know us and wants us to get to know you. So we would be foolish not to spend more time with you. Remind us to spend time with you, God. Give us a nudge in the right direction. Give us a kick in the pants when we need one. Let us be more diligent in seeking you and fellowshipping with you. And God, help open our ears so that we can hear you, or our eyes so that we can hear you with what we see. Or open the eyes and ears to our hearts so that we can feel what it is that you have to share with us. It's a two-way street, God, and we all want to go faster. But if you tell us to slow down, let us slow down. If you tell us to stop and pull over, we'll do it. Maybe we need bathroom breaks from time to time. Who knows? Are we there yet? Enough's never enough with you, God. So I thank you for being all in all, and help my cup overflow, because I'm always drinking. My spiritual coffee, God. I appreciate it. And more sugar, please. I love you so much, God. Thank you for helping everybody come to participate. They love you too, or else they wouldn't be here. But truly lift up those that are alone. And for those that are searching, help them find what it is that you want for them. Let them not be blinded or put scales in their own eyes to find the women of no virtue, or the men that appear to be virtuous but are really wolves in sheep's clothing. A sheep and a wolf cannot be compatible for a family. So, for those marriages that are stressed, God, help alleviate the stress. Help them find peace in you, through and by and for you, and then trickling down to themselves. Help the children behave, God. Help them honor their parents, but also help the parents appreciate and value their children. And help those family situations where children are causing the split between the husband and the wives. Let that be something that is addressed within the family, but let it also be addressed by you, God. Show these people the error of their ways when they're in error, and also show them grace and mercy when they are not in error. For anybody who has an unbelieving wife or an unbelieving husband, God, you tell us in your word that the unbeliever that is in marriage is sanctified by the believer in the marriage. So help that sanctification come to full fruition by helping the non-believer to believe. Break their hearts open. Let the seeds that have been planted be watered. Let the waterings bring forth growth. You bring the increase, God. So increase these people's abilities to believe, and increase their belief, and turn it to faith, and let them have salvation. And we just intercede and supplicate. We're begging in the Spirit for this because it's important. Family unit is the most important pillar of society on a material level, next to a relationship with you, God. So let these pillars of our communities be reestablished and fortified and strengthened. Bring the families back together. And if there is a split of irreconcilable difference, we can never get divorced with Christ, and we'll always be one in Christ. And as long as we're humans, we will make mistakes. And if it's time to go, God, let the Holy Spirit guide and lead when it's time to go, if it is ever time to go. And if it's ever time to go and it's gone, then when it's time to come back to something or someone, whether it be a new someone or the